So I'm really excited to do something different today. And I have Nermine Bolos with me. And normally I'm doing a random thought or something like that. And actually we recorded a few of those that we'll be putting up in the near future. But Nermine's got a really cool story. And I'm really excited to kind of do something different with our group here. And I think it provides a lot of value to like business owners and practice owners and that kind of stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about your story, and then we'll kind of get into like everything else?
Sure. Yeah. So I think when you look back at your life and you think about all the different things that you've been through, at the time, a lot of it's uncomfortable, a lot of the yucky stuff. But what's beautiful about it as you grow older is that you realize that a lot of that stuff was really helped shape you into who you are today.
Right.
And gave you the experiences that you needed to, perhaps help others along the way as well.
Sure.
So I started off, I got married young, and my first 3 years of marriage, I was from state to state to state, following my husband's career. And so I ended up in a small town in Pennsylvania where I got hired by M&T Bank, which is a well-known bank up north. They're headquartered in Buffalo. And there I got the opportunity, they hired me for their sales development program. So I got the opportunity to get all of my licenses through this program. So I worked on the retail side in banking, but then I also got my life insurance license and then my securities licenses.
Okay.
And so I was able to do that for a few years, and then I had my first child. And during that time, while I was living in Pennsylvania, my mom passed away of cancer. I was 27 years old. So she actually never even got to see my children. And that was really, really difficult.
Right.
And so my dad's been a widower for, 17 years now.
Wow.
So I live in Florida now. He's in Arizona. We're kind of spread out. And then I became a stay-at-home mom for a while. And let my licenses lapse, actually. So I had a bunch of securities licenses and life insurance licenses.
So did you stop working there as a stay-at-home?
Yeah, well, I worked part-time, actually, at an accounting office.
Oh, okay.
So
just
then
not the same skills. Right.
Yeah, so then I kind of did that for a while just to get me out of the house while the kids were doing a daycare program for a little bit. So I got the accounting experience. And then after that, in 2017, my whole life fell apart.
Right.
And it was the most difficult thing I'd ever been through. So I was going through a divorce. I found myself a single mom with 3 kids.
Right.
And all of a sudden now, after being a stay-at-home mom for a while, I have to figure out how to financially provide for my children.
What am I going to do? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was tough, but thank God, God kept placing the right people in my life and giving me opportunities. So I was divorced at 40, and yet didn't even really had to go apply for a job or anything. Just people were placed in my life and said, come work for me, come do this, come do that. Awesome. So I ended up getting my life insurance license back again, and my health insurance license, and then securities licenses again. And I ended up getting more licenses than I even had previously. And that's really, I've been through a lot.
Right.
So that's really helped me in my career. So I can empathize with someone that's going through the death of a loved one, whether it's, a parent or a spouse.
Right.
I've been through that. And I never had anyone hold my hand through that.
Right.
So that's why I'm doing what I do, because I'm very passionate about holding others' hands while they're going through it. So whether it's death of a parent, divorce, any of these things that really kind of affect you not only emotionally and physically, but financially too. They have huge financial impact on your life. Even the birth of babies, all of these things impact us financially. And so I want to be that person that helps others kind of rest assure them and let them know how to take the next steps, even help them with the next steps. So that's kind of why I do what I do.
You want to tell people what you do?
Yeah. So I'm a financial planner and investment advisor. I work for a registered independent RIA firm in Oldsmar, Florida, but our clients are nationwide. And I love what I do. I love helping people. I love connecting with people. And I typically go kind of above and beyond all that, where what my passion is connecting people together and helping them grow their businesses as well. My niche is really helping the business owner save money on taxes as they run their business, and then help them with their families as well. And
kind of strategize, financial planning.
Yeah, I look at the long-term plan.
Right.
So financial planning, maybe employer-sponsored plans to help them reduce their taxes, help them incentivize to keep their employees, a whole bunch of things.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of fun. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and we try to fit the pieces together to make it work.
I think it's important. A lot of private practice owners, small business owners, right? They start getting into this space, and it becomes so reactionary to them. And I get that because me and Yolanda have been there. You start out and you just keep doing the next thing, and the next thing keeps snowballing. And like, well, I guess we're supposed to do this now. We're supposed to do that, and let's hire people, and and I don't know that a lot of us actually start thinking ahead on like what the goal or what the vision or what the structure or what the strategy should be, in particularly in the area of finances.
Right.
Because I think the area of finances for so many business owners, they're not comfortable with.
It's overwhelming. It's confusing, and then they have to think about it once a year when they have to do their taxes.
Right.
And then they just kind of want to get through it. And I'm there too. We just want to get through that tax year and that tax return. And the thing is, even if you hire a great CPA, that's very important. But CPAs typically think about from one year to the next.
Right. It's a different
very short-term
focus altogether. Right.
Yeah. Whereas what I do is I think about how to get you to retirement and make sure you don't run out of your means to live.
So when I coach with people in their practice, I usually tell them, look, get a bookkeeper, because that's going to help you get the minutia of everything categorized correctly and let you know every month where your business is sitting. And then I'm like, get a good CPA, because that's going to help you get your taxes every year. And then the last thing I typically tell them is, all right, now that we have those things in place, let's get a financial advisor so that you can really strategize going forward.
Right.
And that's why she's here today, because you do this work, right?
Yeah.
And this was kind of a new one on me. Not all financial advisors are equal or the same.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Like the differences?
And I actually even want to mention something that you brought up too, is like, people, when they think of financial advising and they think of wealth management, I just had a client last month text me and say, oh, I noticed your company is called Unified Wealth Management. I don't have a lot of wealth, so should I cancel my appointment? and I thought about that, and I was like, you know what, that is kind of deceiving.
I get it, yeah.
Because it makes you feel like the expectation is that you're coming in with all this wealth.
Right.
And in reality, our job is to help build your wealth.
Right.
Really, that's really, what it's all about, is helping you get to where you want or need to be.
Right.
And it's really important when you do work with a financial advisor that you understand who they are, who they work for, and how they get paid. Yeah. Because we all get paid differently, and we work for different types of structured businesses. Right. So when I started off with a bank, I was considered, and actually in between that, I also worked for an insurance company. And so I was working for a broker-dealer. And it's very different when you work for a broker-dealer versus an investment advisor, a registered investment advisory firm. And that's really important to know. So both are great, but you just have to know what works best for your situation.
Gotcha.
So when you work with a broker-dealer, a lot of times they might be captive in terms of what types of investment products that they can offer you. They get usually paid on commission transactionally. So the more accounts you open, the more they get paid. The more trades they make, the more they get paid. Right. Versus with investment advisors, it's very different. The object is more of just managing your money on a long-term basis. So it doesn't matter how many accounts you have. It doesn't matter how many trades you do. They don't get paid that way. They really get paid through a management fee. It's called asset-based management. So, and the reason why they get paid that way is it kind of gives them skin in the game. So as they grow your money, they get paid more. Right. And if your money or portfolio decreases, they get a pay cut. So the incentive kind of aligns with your goals a little bit.
I was just about to say, it aligns the incentive.
Yeah. So it's a small fraction of your portfolio, but it keeps them on top of it consistently, you know, managing it, going through it, checking on it, making changes as seem fit based on the economy, based on your life situation, if you're buying a house, if you're buying a car, you know, whatever it is. But it's important that you understand these things because that affects how they're going to advise you. Additionally, too, it's really important to kind of note that it's not always, you know, it's not always in your best interest to do. You want to make sure that the planner, the advisor, whoever, is a fiduciary.
Okay.
It's a special license that, you know, they have to take, and that makes them legally obligated to do what's in your best interest and not their own.
Okay, gotcha.
Because there's a lot of, you know, people out there that might sell you a particular product because they get a large, you know,
they're incentivized some other way to make more off of it.
They get something on the back end. So that's really important to know, you know, how is your advisor getting paid? Another thing too is just talking to them and getting the expectation of like, how often are you going to check up on me? I had a guy come to my house maybe 10, 15 years ago now and opened college savings accounts for my daughters. And he came in, he was super nice. He did all the paperwork. I signed it. I have never heard
seen
from
him
him
since,
again.
right?
Right. So it's really, what kind of relationship do you want? Do you just want somebody to open the account for you and then forget it and you don't need a lot of, you know, constant communication? Or do you want that person that's going to check up on you every couple of months or check in or meet with them and figure out how your portfolio is performing? You know, all these are really important questions. Right. And some people just want to do things on their own, and some people want that, you know, quarterly advice or semi-annual meetings.
Absolutely. I mean, my personal preference is like a relationship, right? Yeah. Like, I want someone who I feel like is on my team and on my side and understands my goals and my vision and can help me put everything in place to put us in the best position to get that, you know? And then continually check in with me and like, hey, here's where we're at. This is what I recommend, you know, that kind of thing. Rather than let's just set it and forget it, right? Right. I almost feel like in a lot of ways, if the set it and forget it model is what you want, you can probably use a lot of the AI or
exactly.
You know,
and there's a lot of financial institutions now
that are moving to that
the
model.
Robo, you know, where you can do the trade at a discounted rate, and but then it's a 1-800 number if you have a question. It's not somebody that's following up with you and understands your personal story, your situation, where you're headed, what your dreams and goals are year after year over the course of the next 20 years or whatever it may be.
And I've heard you in the past talk. Nermine does a lot of networking events with us locally here in Tampa, and I've heard you talk before about helping people like look at their whole business and the structure and the financial situation. So it is more of a partnership,
absolutely,
than just this. I'm only here for this piece of whatever, right? Like, so I think that's cool. And
a lot of times, you know, my clientele are small business owners, and when you're a small business owner, your personal funds kind of are a big part of your business funds, right? You know, so I know for me that's the case even as I run my businesses. So you really want to look at the whole picture. I had a client yesterday who I had a call with his CPA, and I realized he was filing his own personal taxes, but then using a CPA for the business. And I recommended, you know, at this point maybe just have them do both. Yeah, because the two kind of go hand in hand at this point when you're in your own business.
I agree. Like even when I coach, when I partner with people and coach them in their businesses, I always talk through what are the personal goals, what are the professional goals, you know, because I feel like my approach is always, if they don't align, the professional goals typically aren't sustainable, right? Like you work yourself to death and you really will be miserable at the end of the day.
And it's important to start early,
right?
Because, you know, I have many clients that are well past their 50s, and they have a goal that they want to retire by 65, and then when we look at the cash flow, it's not there. It's not there yet.
Right. And you're like, this is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point, because so many people start young. They start this business young, and they don't think about. They're so stuck in, I got to get this going, and I got to, react and keep going in the business and growing this business, and they keep putting that decision off to start thinking about their financial future.
Or they think, and something that I've come across a lot too is, well, I just need to pay off my debt first. I need to pay off my debt first.
Oh yeah, I hear that all the time.
They want to pay off all their debt before they can start saving for retirement.
And that's not in this world.
No, not in this country.
Not in this country at all. Not in our society.
No.
We are such a debt-laden society.
Right. And not
You'll
all
never get
debt is bad.
Absolutely.
There is some good debt,
right.
Out there. You just have to know what's good and bad debt.
Right. What should we tackle first?
Right.
At the same time of kind of planning for your future.
Absolutely.
And I mean, actually, this kind of goes into like my next question for you was, why is it really important to team up with a financial advisor?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are so many things that you can put in place and help people through that just like, I mean, that what you just said, I have to get out of debt first. I hear all the time. And I'm always like, no, because your money can actually work a little better for you if you start thinking about the future and start strategizing for that. Now, it might not be as much as you want to put in right now, or invest right now, but that's just going to keep working for you.
Right.
And so many people, when they start, they don't think about that at all.
Right. And people think, well, things are going good, so I'm doing well.
Right.
But why do you go to a doctor if you're healthy?
Right.
Why do you go to your annual checkup?
Right.
Right? You still want to know, like, what's out there. You still want to check up on things, make sure everything looks good, do your lab work.
Right.
You still want to do preventative care.
Right.
You want to put those, garters in place so that you don't find yourself, because, this world is unexpected. No one dreamed that COVID was going to happen 3 years ago. I certainly didn't think that was going to happen. And
wasn't on anybody's roadmap.
Right. And that affects us financially. All these things, have a financial effect on us. So why not consult with someone who's on your side, who wants to see you succeed, who wants to be on the lookout for you? Because, you're really good at what you do, but you can't be good at everything.
Yeah, and that is tough for small business owners, right? Like everybody I work with, they're like, they want to do it all.
Right.
And they want to become masters of all of it. And I'm like, there's just not enough hours in a day. So usually one of the first things I tend to coach people in is, what can we get rid of?
Right.
What can we give to somebody else?
Delegate.
Outsource, whatever, right? From your business to a virtual assistant, whatever.
Right,
there's a million things you can do. A bookkeeper. Stop doing your own books. Get a bookkeeper. Mm-hmm. You want to make the decisions based off of the information, not spend all your time categorizing every transaction. Right? So there's a lot of hard and fast I always do, and I feel like this is another big one that people are like, no, I'll figure it out. But for something that's not going to cost you a lot over the span of it, you could do so much better work than they can ever figuring it out.
Right.
And I think, I can't stress that enough to people. Let a professional do what a professional does.
Right.
And just like you had said earlier, you're incentivized the same way they are.
Right.
So your whole point is, let's grow this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why not focus your time on what pays you and brings you income,
right?
Instead of, spending half your time doing things that you could probably hire someone to do at a fraction of the price or the cost, and then focus on generating income.
When I work with people a lot, part of my pitch is when they're like, well, I don't know if I can afford this. And I'm like, well, I don't know if you can afford not to.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Ultimately, you are bogging yourself down so much by not just making this investment and moving forward.
Right.
Because I promise you, we are going to put things in such a place that it's not even going to look like it was before.
Yeah.
And you're the same thing financially. It's not even going to be close to what you have in your savings account, hoping that 1 or 0.5% is going to get you, it's not going to get you anywhere, right? And it is nice to have your money in a place where someone is watching it and taking care of it and talking to you and communicating with you and asking, hey, I'm feeling like this is what we should do. Are you okay with that? I prefer that kind of approach than just set it and forget it.
And make sure you're comfortable with the person that you choose to work with.
I think that's really important.
I'll never forget when my kids were little, I used to go to a pediatrician, and I dreaded going to that pediatrician because I always felt intimidated by her.
Right.
She always made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. And I would walk out of, I would go for an annual checkup, and I would walk out with like 5 prescriptions. And I'm like, why?
What happened here?
They were fine. And that's the thing. And then I switched to a new doctor, and she was wonderful.
Yeah.
And she, you know what I mean? And I didn't know that. So it's really important to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable with the financial advisor, then that's not the right fit for you. No matter if they work for a broker-dealer or registered investment advisory
or
firm,
what their resume says,
what their resume or how
right.
highly educated they are. It doesn't matter. You need to like and you need to trust that person. They should be a friend to you because you're sharing the most intimate pieces of your life with them.
Very fair.
Right?
Your goals, your finances, everything that you're putting your hopes and dreams in is like partnered with this person.
So they have to be on the same page and the same wavelength as you. They need to get you. And if they don't, then that's not the right person. Try another person. And it's the same thing with mental health counselors.
Right.
My kids have gone to a mental health counselor that they didn't mesh with at all. Right. And they hated counseling.
Right.
And then I finally got them in with a different person that they loved and adored, and they looked forward to going to counseling.
Yeah.
And counseling, you're the expert in that. Not all counseling is the same. Not everybody counsels the same way.
Right. I mean, I think, statistics show, like in mental health, like they call it the therapeutic alliance. And a big percentage of you meeting your goals and working towards your goals really relies on the therapeutic alliance. And it really comes down to how much do you jive with and trust the counselor you're working with.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important for us in our businesses to get that right. Like in our practice, like, hey, is this person a good fit for you?
Right.
And it needs to feel more like a partnership.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're coming alongside of me and you're helping me. And it's not just this void that
It's a relationship.
Right.
It's definitely a relationship. It's not just here you do this and you'll be in good shape. No, it's a partnership.
Right. And I think it needs to have like a long-term focus.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Like it really comes down to planning for your future. And so many small business owners are stuck in the here and the now, and really even worse than that, just the reaction. Oh, this crisis happened, this crisis happened, this crisis happened. It's just always constantly whack-a-mole, right? The game whack-a-mole. And it's so hard to just shift the focus to like, how do I plan for my future? And I mean, I don't know, maybe it's trust issues.
Yeah.
We don't want to relinquish that, but we don't have the wherewithal to do it. Right? People like Nermine exist, and you can reach out to them, and they can come alongside of you, and they can partner with you, and you can trust them to really help lay out and plan for your financial future. And there's so much even more that goes into this. I mean, beyond what happens to you, like what happens to you when you pass,
right?
What happens to your business, your legacy, your
succession plan. There's so much. And I certainly, as a financial advisor, isn't going to do everything.
Right.
I'm also going to say, hey, do you have a will in place?
Right.
Do you work with an attorney to put, is there a trust?
Right.
The CPA, I'm not going to pretend to be...
Right, to do your taxes this year, right?
No. But we all work together cohesively. And that's why, for me, it's really important that I build a power team for myself where I know who I trust to do the CPA work and to be the, estate planning attorney and stuff. So my clients, they in addition to the financial services that I offer, they get kind of a glimpse of my personal business network.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like tying into like a whole connected.
Yeah, it's so much bigger than just hiring a financial advisor.
Right, because you want to do business with people who have partnered with you, and referring out to and getting referrals from people that you trust, people that are like-minded in the way you do business. I mean, I do that myself with people that I refer for ads and
Right.
different marketing aspects and SEO and things that business owners are like, I have to get all this figured out. And that's another one of those things they always think of, oh, I'll just master all these things. And it's like, all these are careers.
Right. Right. Full-time
Every
careers.
one of these are full-time careers,
Exactly.
and you're not going to master all of these. You might get good at a couple of them or one of them. I think our finances are no different.
Yeah. I mean, I care deeply about my clients. I want to make sure they're in good hands. And so I want to make sure that not only am I taking care of them, but their CPAs taking care of them, their estate planning attorneys taking care of them,
Right.
Whoever, insurance, all of these things. It's so important.
Right.
So, and it just opens the business owner's eyes and opportunity to so many good services that are
Right.
out there that they can take advantage of and utilize.
Right.
Versus trying to Google search everyone on their own.
Yeah, it's hard. We want to Google, and so much of that is based off of who's got good reviews and not, and all that, right? But there's nothing that can replace somebody that you know and trust recommending someone to you.
Absolutely.
Because if you know and trust them, and you feel like they have input and value, right? When they say, "Hey, I've got a person," that is so much heavier,
Right.
and so much more connecting, and really relationship building than just trying to Google or whatever, right?
There's almost a sense of accountability there,
Right, because heaven forbid I wouldn't want that person that I just referred you to do a bad job.
Exactly. Because then it's a reflection on me.
Right, because then I just did a terrible thing by telling you, go work with so-and-so, right? Yeah. I think this area, finances, professional, personal, it's all got to be moving in the direction that you want, right? And that's going to serve you.
Right.
And your goals and your vision. And every one of us has different goals and visions. A lot of time, that's the first thing I do when I sit down with people is we start talking about where are we going. Because the approach I take isn't a one-size-fits-all. Mm-hmm. It's customized to exactly what your goals and your visions are.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it can be any different than the financial space.
No, not at all. And that's why there's so many different products out there and so many different type, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, you know, and every little detail makes a difference. Do you have employees?
Right.
And are those employees W-2 or 1099?
Right.
Immediately, I can tell you, if you have W-2, 1099 employees, that cancels out this retirement plan or that. So all the little details, and that's what the financial advisor should know and do well. That's their job. But the nice thing is that they're going to walk you through it step by step.
Right, and they're always a resource to go back to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like when you are just lost and Googling something at 3 a.m, you can send them an email.
Yeah.
They don't answer at 3 a.m, but they'll answer you later on.
Yeah.
So what else should we say about financial advisors?
I just, I also think that you should be the one interviewing them.
I agree.
Find out who their clients are. Do they have experience with other business owners? Who's their main clientele? Is it families? Is it single people? Is it business owners?
Oh, that's a good point.
How large are these companies? All of that affects their experience and their knowledge. What is their niche? Ask them what type of relationship that they expect to have with you. I mean, are you planning on calling them every time the market goes up or down? Because I tell my clients right away, I'm not a day trader at all.
Right.
That is not.
And the market is going to
wheelhouse.
fluctuate.
Yeah, I'm always looking at long-term planning.
Right.
Obviously we're on top of what's going on in the economy, but we're not trying to when somebody comes up to me and says, if I give you $100,000, what are you gonna do with it? I say, that's not the conversation that I'm not here to try to make you a quick buck.
Right.
I'm really looking at what are your goals? What's the most important values to you? Is it to send your kids to college? Right. Is it to pay off your house? Is it to have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million by the time you retire? Like what is the most important thing to you? And then let's work our way backwards.
Right.
And figure out, okay, this is how much you need. This is where you're at today. Now how do we bridge that gap?
Right.
What are the steps we take in place? How do we divide your buckets of money? What is your cash flow? What does it look like? How much do you have to begin with? Do we need to grow that? Do we need to figure out how to divide, your the additional income that you have, and how much do we put towards college? How much do we put towards that car you want to buy or
right.
the house.
And then, like, what is your risk tolerance as
and
well?
what is your risk tolerance?
How comfortable do you feel, going for a bigger return or a less return that's more stable?
And it's not just one risk tolerance. Like, if you were my client and we were talking about a savings account, and then we're also talking about a retirement account,
right.
I'm going to take two different risk tolerance because
right.
maybe you're saving for a couple of years because you want to buy a house in 3 years.
Fair.
Well, that's going to have a very different risk tolerance analysis than your retirement, which you're not planning on retiring for 15 to 20 years.
Right.
So even within each additional goal has its own specific risk tolerance. So it's a lot more in depth and complex than you might imagine.
Yeah, it takes a professional.
And then there's joint accounts too. So maybe you have a high risk tolerance, but your wife has a very conservative one.
That's fair.
How do we bridge that gap? Because it's a joint account.
Right.
So we take all of these different things into consideration as we invest your money.
Right. So it's more of the gestalt, a holistic approach.
Yeah.
And looking at everything, your professional life, your personal life, your goals, where you want to be,
your children, your
you're
family.
Right. What do you want to leave your
parents,
children?
Do you have elderly parents that you plan on taking care of them as they grow older? Do they have long-term care and plan? Right. I always like to tell my clients, I want to know who your beneficiaries are. Because they need to get a hold of me, God forbid, if something were to happen to you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I want to meet with them. I want them to have my contact information.
Right.
And then parents as well. And we have a really cool, unique client portal experience that allows us to have access to our clients anywhere in the world. Our parents' generation, they got the safe deposit box at the bank, and they got the safe in the basement that they would, I grew up
under the mattress.
So, yeah.
And the coffee can.
We live in a digital world today. God forbid if something were to happen to my father. My sister lives in Orlando. I live here. We would have to fly out to Arizona and then uproot the house looking for all of his stuff.
Right.
Versus Dad, take all of this important information and scan it to the portal.
Right. In
a shared folder where I have access to it.
Right.
So that even from Florida, if something were to happen to him, God forbid,
work for you.
I can help him. Right. I can make sure his bills are paid. I can figure out where his policies are.
Right.
And we all have aging parents where we got to start thinking about these things.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not going to get less complex.
No. It never does.
I think it's really important that you let a professional work in this space in your life and in your business. Because there is so much that you have to account for. And if you don't, you'll never meet your goals. Like, unless you're doing it full time, I don't know how you'll be able to account for running your business and your family, and also hitting all the right marks to make your finances meet all those goals to take care of everything.
Right.
It's such an important space that I think so many small business owners and practice owners they're just scared of, so they ignore it. And really all it takes is just starting a relationship with someone like you, and you guide them through the rest. And it's a long-term process. It's not a relationship that starts today and ends tomorrow.
Right.
It's a partnership that's going to go on for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And you want to take, your financial temperature. We go to the doctors, and we don't expect to be a doctor. We don't expect to be our own doctors. We go to the professionals, and they tell us, what our labs look like, what are, all these results and tests, and analyze it.
Right.
In the same way that you can just take your IRA statement to a financial advisor and just have them kind of explain to you. And then you'll learn from them how much knowledge and experience they have. Do they understand how to analyze this?
Right.
Can they read this and explain it to you? And explain it to you in a way that, without showing off in their big fancy terminology, but just really kind of like breaking it down.
So you understand it.
So you understand it. Because my job as a financial planner and investment advisor is to really educate my clients so that they can make the best decisions for themselves.
Right.
I'm here to advise them, but I want them to be empowered.
Right.
I want them to understand how they're paying and what fees they're paying in their IRA.
Right.
And who's collecting what.
Right.
And what they're invested in. And what does it mean to be in a growth fund versus a value fund? All of these different things. I want to educate them so that they are empowered to understand, so that they feel confident when they make the decisions that they make for their future.
Yeah, and every decision has consequence.
Absolutely.
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right? But every decision you make is going to have some direction that it changes things toward.
Right.
This is a cool conversation.
I'm loving it.
I hope we can do more of this.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of my goal to bring some more value to the group, and I think Nermine has a lot of value to bring to the group, and she's in the group. So I'll tag you here.
Awesome. Thank you.
And people can reach out to you with questions and things like that.
Well, thank you, Shamon, for caring enough to want to talk about these important topics and not just focusing on, one thing, because the business owner has a lot on their plate.
I think, the group's idea is collaboration, right? Like, how do we all help each other raise the bar? Right. And this is one of those areas where we can give some information, and maybe it will get someone thinking, you know what, maybe I should get some help in this area, and maybe I should start thinking about the future rather than all of the just churn of where I'm at, the day to day,
the grind.
And it's such a simple shift. Simple shift.
Mind shift.
But it's so profound in where it takes you. And I think if we just keep focusing on the here and now, it's just a hamster wheel. It's never going to end. Right. And we got to go into this starting to think, okay, in the long term, where do I want to be? Right. It's almost like you go into it thinking, how do I want to get out of it? Right?
And I ask those tough questions. And I tell my clients right away, like, I'm going to ask you tough questions that you're not really, staying up at night wanting to think about, but they're important.
They are. And the more I get clarity on these questions, the more I can advise you to make decisions about your finances and your future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.